with that. And it is now 6 o'clock on February 24th, and we call the special PAC meeting to order. If we could please have roll call.
Will Harris,
Here.
Joel Goldberg,
Here.
Randy Lewis,
Here.
Bob Wilkerson,
Here.
Mike Phil,
Here.
Brad Carlberg, is here, and Jeff Carey.
Here. Excellent. So thank you very much. And before we jump into the approval of the minutes, I do want to recognize and introduce Joel Galbraith. He is the 7th member of the Planning Advisory Commission. So Joel, welcome. We have a full PAC and everybody is present here today, either physically or virtually. So welcome and thank you. I did count, we had 19, I think now 20 people in the room. So we're still safe. We're under 40. And with that, the approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to read January 13 and January 27 minutes for 2025?
I do have an update for January 13th. I misspelled 2 names. If you'd like me to bring that up and show you, I can, but otherwise you can trust that I fixed it. And they will be fixed when they're uploaded and approved.
I have one have addition correction to the January 13th minutes. On the second page, the section 4. Since we were kind of getting in kind of a touchy meeting that day, maybe we could change the word from again to further. Then it doesn't sound like people are lecturing each other. That's on the section 4.
Could you read the sentence?
Staff, original sentence was staff again explained that the MCCJ had received and I would just say, let's change it to staff further explain.
Do that.
Thank you.
Other than that, I'll make the motion with that correction to approve the January 13th, 2025 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I don't hear anything from Brad, but we have 5. We have 5 in the room. Motion passes. And the January 27th minutes.
I'll make the motion to pass January 27th.
Randy seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Minutes are approved for January 13th and January 27th for 2025. Okay, approval or changes to the agenda. Does anyone have any proposed changes to the agenda?
I have one.
And
I'd like to add it could be after the committee staff updates. Or it could be under other business, wherever you want it. It's dealing with discussing with the rest of the PAC committee here about possibly meeting with one of the county officials as far as on the capital facilities plan that we passed or advised that we wanted to approve back in last year. And get an idea of where that's going, and because in 3 months we'll be seeing it again. So
I'll add that under other business, if that's acceptable. So we'll do
Sure.
bylaws, then SIP recommendation. And I would like to add one other, and that is I would like to add just a brief discussion on the final draft of the comprehensive plan and that review. And a couple of comments for that to consider.
and would that be under other business?
Yes, that will follow your discussion.
So you need a motion to approve the agenda with the 2 additions.
You want to approve the amended agenda?
Approve the amended agenda.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve that. Your second.
Second.
Oh,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Same one as the first. Yeah.
Motion passes. All right. Any conflict of interest? Do any commissioners have any conflicts to the subject matter that we're about to discuss this evening?
No.
Brad? You have any conflicts of interest this evening? You're still on
muted.
mute. No, okay, that's fine.
Shake your head up and down for yes.
Unmute, no, or unmute, yes.
Do you,
Let me say yes.
do you have any conflicts of interest this
No, I
evening?
do not have any conflicts of interest.
All right, so there are no conflicts of interest this evening. We have two meetings coming up, one on March 3rd, one on March 17th. The one on March 3rd is a special meeting. It was put together on partially my request and it was built on by Kel Rowan. I support Kel's actions. What I asked staff to, I met with Kel and Marissa outside of the meeting. And we talked about things coming up. We were talking about the economic development piece as we discussed last meeting. But then the follow-on was, I expressed basically a concern that with the climate change coming up, it's a new section. We haven't seen what all it's going to look like. I'm not talking about what the climate change is. I'm talking about what goes into that element. So what type of, how might it be structured? Just like housing is structured by, okay, we're going to have a population growth. We have a look at the density of houses. Then we have a breakout based upon income per home. And so we have an idea of what we need to build within different income brackets to help and support our citizens. And so with that, Kel mentioned, hey, I know somebody at the Department of Commerce that works this. Well, this will be interesting. And I've asked that, can we have this person come and discuss what goes in that piece of that element? And so that person is going to come and talk about what goes in, not to discuss specifics of climate change. We have a separate group that the county is working. It's internal to staff that they're handling. They'll bring that to us March, April. And then with that, Kel also had an individual he knows with housing and thought it might be helpful for that individual to come to. So that is what the 3rd of March is. It's an informative meeting to help us as PAC members better understand what the state's requirements are. So if you will, what's the minimum bar we have to, and we have to take from SCJ and others. We have to work with staff and get into the comp plan so we can help and support, and we make a recommendation through staff to our board of commissioners. So that's what that 3rd meeting is about. And then the March 17th is a regular meeting, and we do have that move to Public Works now.
We do.
We do. And for everyone in the room, the reason we are looking at moving to Public Works is a result of the meeting on 13 January in here, where we just tucked over 40 people. We have 41 people in the room. And so at the request of the public, we listened to what you're saying. And so we were trying to find a room that would allow for more people to attend and also find a way ultimately to where both the people in Zoom land and the people in the room aren't looking at the facts of some of the members, so you could hear us better. We haven't obviously helped and solved the looking at the back of people yet, but we're working on that. We haven't forgot what you said, okay? So we're working for it. Okay, committee staff updates.
Okay, so I wanted to update on the short-term rental regulations review. I've briefed again with the commissioners on and the current consensus was agreeing that we do need to postpone until we have postpone the review of the short-term rental regulations until we have that complete draft of our comp plan. So right now, as is, it's still on the books. It's just waiting until we get further on with our mandated work. So I wanted to update you on that. And I just wanted to let the PAC know comments that I received that I forwarded to the PAC. In some cases, I do respond to some of those comments, especially if it's miscommunication about our development regs, and maybe I can clear up how those development regulations are applied myself. As well as maybe, if comments are regarding other commissions are more appropriate for other commissions and not the planning commission, I will try to redirect to those commissions as well. But you did receive some comments from Terry Presley from the last meeting. She handed them to me. And I did respond, email her on a few comments that I could clear up. But you have those comments as well. And then Will already talked about the March 3rd presentation, so that's coming up here pretty quick next week. I think you guys all got the housing slide. Like, right, you probably haven't seen them in your email yet, so.
I
The
sent it.
housing slides, and they will be up on I will have IT put them up on the website for everybody else as well. I'll put out an email, so. And I'm still waiting for the slides on the climate portion, which will probably be pretty late in the week, because she's still working on getting that together, but I will try to get the slides to you guys. And then I think that's.
I have an update, I guess. We have received a public records request that is going to affect all of you. So I have copies of it, so you can take it home, read it. It's kind of long, really big and scary looking. But at this point in time, staff, both me and our county public records officer and legal are still going through this and trying to break it down and figure out what exactly they're asking for and what we do need from you. So again, it looks really big and scary. It's not that big and scary. But I will be in touch with you guys further on how to get some of that information from you. Basically, it's asking for some of your personal communication devices regarding any PAC documents you may have. So I'm gonna pass this down. There's one for all of you. Brad, I will email you one. And then, like I said, it looks really big and scary. It kind of is, but also it's not, because staff is working on it so that we can find out exactly what it is we need from you first.
One question.
Mhm.
Who's the requester?
The requester was anonymous.
How do you respond to an anonymous person?
They gave us an email that,
Can you get that email?
yes,
Okay.
What's the county policy on anonymous requests for
and it can be anonymous, it doesn't matter. Basically, the other reason I'm giving this to you is that you are required not to delete anything that you may have now that you know about the request. So just hold on to anything you may have, and I will be in touch.
so the
further.
county does not have a policy regarding anonymous requests.
The public records, anybody can request, they can be anonymous,
And what does the RCW or the WAC say about anonymous requests?
they can be anonymous.
What's the RCW?
Off the top of my head, public
40
records is
42,
42
30 something. I can't remember exactly. 42 dot, I think 31, but I wouldn't swear to that. Maybe 34.
4256.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna speak on my behalf. You've seen how much time I've had to read this. I would, before taking any action other than I will delete nothing,
Delete nothing, that's all I'm telling you at this point in time.
and I am going to pause doing anything. Because, I think this request is only for communications between the people listed, with the exception of the planning commission members, right? That's us. This request is for all communication on all devices, personal and public. All personal. We want every communication on all private devices or any communication mentioned or commented regarding any county issue. This includes but not limited to personal comments, questions, etc. I mean, I'm reading down this list of names, and I was at a 100% social dinner the other night with multiple members on this. There's nothing recorded. I mean, unless someone had, I mean,
So that's kind of where I said it looks really scary, but staff is still working on that. What exactly are they asking and what do we need from you? At this point, we're just telling you, don't delete anything. I'm also looking, it looks like maybe only Will, you have the back page on it. It is two-sided, something like that.
Right. there's no back page.
No
back
page.
I'll email out the entire thing to everyone, so
Appreciate it.
you can
Thank
have a
you.
copy of it.
And whatever you have on the source. I'd like to know who's doing this.
Mhm.
And it's interesting, I'm reading some of these names and they, some cases don't even live in Mason County. They're not public servants either in a elected staff or advisory policy, advisory commission like role. This is simply a citizen off the street and you can request this.
And that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, they can request whatever they want.
Right.
Yeah, I want to know
And
who's
staff
doing
is
this.
still working at figuring out what exactly it is we are responsible for providing.
Yeah, wow.
A few years ago, I got,
Family member devices too, huh?
I question the legality of some of this, but
No.
staff will direct this.
Yep,
Staff will
I will
direct-
be
I will
informed.
delete nothing. That's what I'll do,
That's all I'm telling you.
and I will wait. Okay,
well, I was struggling into a situation a few years ago. So I did quite a bit of research on the rules and the public disclosure, as I understand, at least a few years ago, they could only release comments that had to do with business of the government. And I see names on here of people that, and also it's between
let's,
communications of public officials, like elected officials, are subject to the act. But I see names on here, people that are not public officials. So no, there are restrictions.
let's,
where legal will come in.
let's us take the step of, we delete nothing. And staff will provide us direction as they work it through the appropriate agencies. Cool. All right, I would like to say thank you. but wow.
I'm not looking forward to it either.
No. We'll do whatever we need to do to help and support. Okay.
Mine will be very easy.
You're safe.
Ready, you're safe.
Anything else?
I think I had anything else unless I am forgetting something.
Not right now. Anderson. Okay, before we step on two items first. My error, Commissioner Pat Tarswell is in the back. We'd like to acknowledge that Commissioner Tarswell is here. Thank you again for coming, sir, and look forward to, listening to us, and we'll go. One other question, and I've dropped a couple interesting comments that have been pretty insightful in the room, but do we have guidance from states? Has there been any work in the state at all with regards to how funding may change? What I acknowledge is simply, we have a different administration back east. They have made certain statements out there. Our governor made some statements last week on X, basically saying he is going to oppose the president and continue down to Washington State that he believes is right. And with that, though, there is the potential, as stated on the federal side, of withholding the federal funds. Do we have any idea how that might potentially impact us? Because we have talked about many things that potentially could require federal funding, and that could impact this planning very importantly. So I'm just asking the question, do we have anything out there? It's a tough
Well, I mean,
question.
the only thing I can speak on is our grants and for the work that we're doing, and I have no indication that we're not going to get that money since we were already awarded it. So I am pretty confident we will still get that.
Okay. If you do hear anything down the pipe, just let us know, particularly if it affects a major program or something, because we get federal funds for transportation, a lot of different things that affect something.
Well, I mean,
It's,
I don't always hear that because our planning department really doesn't get me. It's gonna be public works that's going to, but I haven't heard anything from Loretta.
I suspect what we have in front of us between now and about the end of June, not to hear a lot. I suspect it'll come later, but if you do hear something, just give us a heads up. All right. Okay. No other staff, any updates at the table? Agree?
I just want to mention, I'm out of town on the 17th. I'm gonna try to join by Zoom on my phone, but that may or may not work.
Okay.
You can always ask for
I'm sorry.
you can always ask the chair for an excused absence.
May I have an excused absence on the 17th?
There you go.
That's St. Patty's Day, man, that's like.
Although the bylaws haven't changed yet, it's, the whole group has to excuse me until we change the bylaws.
We'll take care of that. Okay, so with that, first other business up is bylaws. And so what I'm gonna do is if I can share here.
It should let you.
Share. Yeah, so this is the bylaws as was sent out by Marissa. Okay, good. So what you can see is the old bylaws, it's all in track changes. She took, staff took our comments. I do know there are, I know of 3 of us have provided comments, or may have been others. And they tried to take the comments and incorporate them. I know not everything is in there. I know in some cases, you know, like I recommended something, but it's in a different spot, and I suspect it's because somebody else recommended a different spot, or that staff believed it was better located in where she put it. So this is what we have. And so what I was thinking is it's a working section, so let's work through this. And you know, if the group is then comfortable with what we have in the end, we can take action on that. Are there any comments?
I had a question. You think we'll be able to come to a consensus quickly? I was just involved in a bylaws exercise, and it took weeks. But at this point, I mean, if we could do it quickly, fine, but if it's gonna go on and on, I would prefer we defer till after the comp plan is.
I'll set the timer for
Yeah.
30.
Good, so we have 30 minutes on the clock for
So
this,
let's
on
get
the
moving.
agenda, and we have
No,
Oh,
I'm gonna run that.
he's, yeah, so he's counting down right now, so let's just work.
Yeah, if we
through-
do 30 minutes, great. I just would hate to have it drag on when we have.
Nope,
Comp
we're
plan.
we're gonna try and hold to the times. Okay. Comments, thoughts? I'll go whatever section you want to, otherwise I'll just sort of.
Well, strategically,
Mhm.
big picture. When it comes to describing behavior or actions or things like that, to me, it should not be a part of a preamble, it should be part of down in the guts of it. Preamble's more describing what the committee usually, at least my experience, has been more describes what the organization's doing, or group or committee or whatever. You know, big picture wise, as a preamble, or why it was created, or, you know, those kind of things, not getting into, you know, just, you know,
Okay.
the fear, criticism, that, you know, the moving of this or that. In other words, to me, it's more like a behavior thing. You want to put it under conflicts of interest and behavior, fine. That's just me. To me,
I
it's
think
like
that's a good point.
you describe what the committee is about. You know, or how it came about or something, your scope, what kind of think tasks you might do in that committee. And I'm just giving you big, big picture view.
Might I say, good, Mr. Chair, go through what we have right now.
Okay.
And then come back and
Sure.
circle around back to what you want.
Yeah.
That way we can get
All right,
stuff approved and then jump into,
okay.
unless anyone has a. Doesn't sound good.
So this paragraph here, does anyone have any issues with the content? We'll discuss where it goes later.
Okay, just a second. Oh,
Talking about the first one, right?
Yeah,
or-
members of the planning commission, the core, the existing preamble, correct?
I think all the language is good.
well, the eliminating of conflicts of interest and all that. That whole sentence, the third line to the bottom, wouldn't that, is that still in the preamble?
No,
We can move it.
Okay,
is the content correct? We'll discuss whether it's preamble or not, later. What's content correct?
then let me go. It's not a matter of eliminating conflict, it's identifying it and allowing, because conflicts will inevitably arise,
So more managing the conflict.
right? So I don't, if somebody has a conflict of interest, I want to hear their point of view.
This meeting is being recorded.
To get a bigger, handle on the problem, what they're,
So as I type here, this is simply me taking notes. And if members disagree, I remember trying to capture your
sure.
thoughts so you can see it.
right,
And then as you look at it, you go, no, I don't like it, and you can suggest something else.
Yeah, I think that down there, like Harry is saying, where by eliminating would follow, I would say more come down here in conflict of interest in section 7.
right, and he's saying that they're gonna look at the location, I'm not.
Not the whole, I mean, I'm just saying, but from there
I'm
down, you see
specifically-
something to hold on
I'm
to, not.
specifically identifying that line, saying what it says, the guts of what it
It's
says.
not eliminate, but it's identify and then address,
Yeah.
basically recusal.
Yeah.
It still exists, but that individual is withdrawn from the discussion.
No, withdrawn from the vote, from the discussion. And they can check that out legally, but I've been down this
That's
path
Robert's
before.
rules.
The R just talks about your bylaws and you make up your own.
Okay.
But we need to try to stay out of the weeds to
Okay,
get through this.
so I've captured that. Anything else in that first paragraph under preamble? That from a content perspective,
I'm fine with it.
scope and applicability, I'll just use the current section number, so section 1. You can see, looking at the new words that are up there, any issues, any comments or recommendations? Hearing none. Moving to section 2, meetings and attendance.
Address the issue that, especially like when we're dealing with these bigger subjects, 3 business days is a little tight on some of these issues. And I saw correspondence or somebody entering, or the note over here saying, well, maybe 5, like 1 week. 5 business days, okay, fine, I mean, that's,
Opinions?
Yeah, I agree, 3 is a little tight. 1 week would probably be adequate, 5 business days.
Again, I'm typing this in so you can read it, not that that's the answer. Any other suggestions? Numbers and silence is general occurrence. The one big change to this section is the addition of that second paragraph where we attend in person, not virtually. There's been a lot of discussion of virtual attendance and Beth, can you give us the history on virtual attendance and how things have been done over the last 4 or 5 years?
I can, with basically the COVID, and the shutdown and all of that. The OPMA was updated to require basically any public open public meeting be hybrid. So we do have to allow a hybrid option. However, can say for committee members that you are to be in public if you want. Basically, it's for public comment purposes. We have to allow the public to comment, and whether that's in person, online, we still have to have a hybrid meeting. Also helpful or something you can still attend. But that's up to you on whether you want somebody to be in person or not. But before COVID, we had
And how the board of commissioner briefings, have they changed at all over time?
the Board of County Commissioners did change. I don't know exact dates or anything. I do know with Commissioner Chartwell starting, they did talk about it and decide to do all of our briefings in person on Mondays. And then their agenda meetings where they approve things, those are hybrid, but they are in person.
The commissioners are present. So we went in COVID where it was more Zoom-like. As we've come out of COVID, we've moved back to where the board meetings are in person for the commissioners and are Zoom available for citizens to participate. And then now this year, 2 months ago, we moved to where we have the board, BOCC meetings, also the Monday meetings where the commissioners are present and staff members are physically present.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, what this is saying is that basically us PAC members should be physically present. We certainly allow the option, but should someone, be traveling, be sick, whatever, we don't want someone to come in here if it's, if they're sick, keep it at home, but please join us via Zoom. So, all right. Section 3, officers.
So we're gonna pick December or January. This year we did January, and I'm fine with January.
I don't care. Preference?
No, I like January.
January's fine with me.
Staff, is there any reason not to do January?
I don't think so. As I said before, it was the last regular meeting of each calendar year, and sometimes that was kind of hard in that we might not have a meeting in December due to holidays or not having things to put on an agenda for December.
January it is.
Push to January.
I would like to make a comment, so as we read this sentence, this second sentence, officers shall be elected at the last January regular meeting of each calendar year. Or as soon they're at the January regular meeting or soon, and shall hold office until their successors have been elected and qualified. No one can define what qualified is, so I would recommend we delete that. Unless someone can, is there a step there?
I just want to comment, let you get done, then I'll comment.
I'm done.
Okay, we have a regular meeting in January, not last.
And, correct, and last is actually deleted here. It was my mistake
Okay.
in speaking it. That was my.
And then of each calendar year, okay, yeah,
My error.
I'll shut up.
Can anyone, any qualified, is there a step? I would recommend we just take that out, is once they're elected, they're,
Once you've been appointed by the commissioners,
okay?
Mine was
Yeah,
basically the next sentence says the officer shall qualify as regularly appointed members. So it just kind of means you're a regular member already, you're in good standing, that kind of thing.
I would like to think we wouldn't vote someone in that isn't, but okay. We're good.
But qualified is defined as having been appointed by the commissioners. Is that,
And participating in good faith. So if you have 3 absences in a row, you're no longer in good faith, you're not in good standing with the PAC. All right, any other comments on section 3, officers?
do we have two meetings in January normally?
1 month.
So it's the meeting, okay.
You know, if there's anything more than one a month, it's typically a special meeting, and that's what we've been seeing.
Oh, okay.
This is a new section on procedures. So this defines what our general agenda looks like. And it talks about how that's put together. Comments? Talk about open public meetings. We put together the standard agenda so that there's structure to that.
So this wouldn't be the section, or would this be the section to address the creation of the agenda? And where I'm going is, or what I'm leading up to is basically like in TIPCAP, we changed it so that, so to speak, both staff and the chair participate in the agenda.
I have that somewhere.
I can't remember where it is.
I would like to add something to the procedure, the format of the meeting agendas, and saying add a start time or end time for each agenda item and a duration column so that we can track, we can put variable times into those durations and start time so that we can more able to keep track of a meeting. We can know if we, by looking at the clock, and if we've talked for 5 extra minutes, we better stop it and move on to the next agenda item. So I think be specific start or end time and duration for each agenda item.
All right, thank you, Brad. I caught some words. I'm just, folks, I'm scrolling, trying to figure out where we had who put the agenda together. Because we had that in here.
Okay, then just ignore it for now.
Well, no, so we'll add duration and then the agenda is jointly developed. And if you disagree with these words, do whatever you tell me what to change, other than my caps lock.
Just yell at.
Well, it should be jointly generated by the chair and or designee.
Right,
So if you get run over by a Mack truck or you get recalled to the mothership,
before we have a chance to nominate somebody else.
or you get the agenda.
So,
Yeah.
and secretary being the position that Kel Rowan holds as the head of community planning. Figure out. All right. If we say,
Would the default designee be the vice chair?
unless he's not available, and then I can nominate you.
That's what I mean. If she's available, would he be the default designee?
That'd be it's how I would run it, yeah. I mean, for the next 11, 12 months, yes. After that, that's up to the chair. I think I'm going to suggest putting this here. Hold it. Jeff's watching the time, still not late yet. I'll deal with formatting later, so add duration item, item.
And to do that, a duration and time, start time or end time,
If
I would suggest making that upper list right above that, the words you just added, make that be a table, make the agenda be a table, a word table with columns.
that is one way what I would prefer, Brad, is not to direct staff on specifically, whether it's a table, whether it's a Word document or Excel. I'm going to trust staff to get it right. If the content is there, that would be my suggestion, is our focus.
I would caution as well with the time, so setting a specific time to start each different item, so having if we start at 6, that's great. But saying a public hearing starts at 6:15, if we got done with everything else and it's not 6:15, now we have to sit here in silence for 5 minutes. So just to say, we start at 6, and if you want to include a cutoff time or something like that, that's a different discussion.
Yeah.
We're
And
we're gonna talk about this for 30 minutes. Is fine, but having a specific start time to it.
Right. I'd agree with that.
yeah, so that's why, so the draft had add duration time to each agenda, okay, so we probably have to include the duration time in each agenda item. And that captures your intent, Brad, and I think that's what's most important.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's my intent.
Comments from the public, this stating what we already do, 3 minutes for public comment. You state up above that the non-agenda comments are limited to 15 minutes, replicating what the Board of Commissioners do. We do have the suggestion for specifying written comments, that was mine, and I put that in there. And so there's a couple of pieces to this. Is one, we will accept written comments. Number two, it tries to provide a deadline, so we don't get everything. Monday at 2 o'clock for a 6 o'clock meeting doesn't work very well for me to try and get prepared, so it's hard to absorb someone's comments if it comes in written. So I put, arbitrarily, I thoughtfully, I put a Thursday prior to the meeting to give staff a little time to get it to us. One thing that's not here, I am suggesting that we limit the written comments to a page volume. My recommendation would be, 4 pages of text. My concern is that I would hate to get, 4 reports from the state, and there's 300 pages of reading between Thursday and Monday afternoon. At some point, I'm just like the 3-minute limit. There's a reason. I'm trying to find that balance to allow full open public comment, but at the same time, allow us. If someone gives me 300 pages on Thursday, I don't know how to prepare for that.
Staff has comments on
Yeah,
this.
so we'd have to accept it, but what you could do when we get to the meeting, you could say, hey, I received this many comments. We may not be able to make a decision on this because we have a lot more to review than we thought, but I have to accept those comments and get them to you.
Okay, open public comment requires us to accept.
Yes.
I would
Okay.
also say with written public comment that we can't stop them.
Right.
Again, it's part of the hybrid meeting, all of that. If they want to provide written public comment at the meeting, that's fine. They could provide it to us with the understanding of it's during the meeting and you might
Yeah.
not read it right away.
I
But
won't.
typically that would be more of a work session, something where you're not going to be voting right away. But so the written comment here would be more if you're
Okay.
providing prior written comment.
But it would seem to me that would jug up the meeting. Doesn't the RCW talk about something like that? It says you really don't want to, for meeting management.
I can't stop the public from commenting if they want.
Right, I'm just saying, but the chair can.
Well, let's,
I'm sure it's in RCW 40s too, somewhere around there.
yeah, the challenge is if we get, as I've reviewed things in the state, some of this, there are some great reports at the state level, and many of the topics we're discussing. And if, the public says, hey, these guys, we really ought to know this, but there's literally 300 pages dumped on this, it's like, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to be responsive to, if I don't read it, I'm being non-responsive. If I read it,
Anyway.
it could be challenging. Okay, but so this is correct. Adding like a limit is incorrect. Won't do that. Thank you. Any other comments in this?
So we're not limiting not gonna have the 4-page limit, is that what you're saying?
Can't have a 4-page limit.
Okay,
Can't legally do it, so we won't.
Got it,
We're
thank
not- we won't.
just wanna make sure.
Yeah, no. Okay,
Under absence, so we need to put an S after meeting. Second line, there's a second line need to S there, yeah, thanks.
other comments on section
Yes.
5?
Not for me.
Section 6 quorum. I think that's self-explanatory. We have 7 of us, 4 of us need to be here to take a vote. If that's less than a quorum, we can't do business. Voting in action,
If only 5 are present, is 3 a quorum,
No.
or is 4 still a quorum? 4 is a quorum no matter what.
4 is quorum. So if you-
Well, what I meant was, if there's 5 people, 3 to 2 vote prevails. Okay, got it, thank you.
If there are 5 people and the 3-2 vote, nothing happens. You need, what? No, you got 4, 3-2 passes, yes, correct.
Quorum
So you have to have at least 4 to.
Yeah.
Quorum says you
Okay,
can
I got
conduct
it.
business.
I got it, thank you.
All right. Voting in action,
Wasn't there maybe, okay, maybe it was in another section. There was a section in the old minutes that described the situation that if you had a conflict of interest, you wouldn't vote. But if you needed to have a quorum, then you could vote. And I just said, no.
is that in the conflict of interest
Probably.
section?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
But
So,
it's
other than that open comment, is there any other action, any other issues in section 7? Okay, section 8, conflict of interest.
So that whole. I mean, it's fine, it begins out fine, that second paragraph.
Yeah.
But the part where. If number 1, the members present necessary for a quorum. No,
Yeah, that bothers me too.
Where you?
number 1 here on second paragraph. Where it's saying no member should vote,
No, if you have a conflict of interest and we need you for a quorum, it sounds like we don't have a quorum.
Then
Then we
it
need
gets
to
tabled,
change it.
then it gets tabled into the next meeting.
Well, it says right there, the member's presence is necessary for a quorum.
Unless the member's presence is necessary for a quorum.
Am I
But you're
reading-
saying
am I reading that backwards?
if we have a quorum, the conflict of interest guy can't participate. Unless we need him for a quorum, then he can participate. Well, if it's inappropriate, when we have enough, why is it appropriate when we need him for a quorum? I agree with Jeff. I think we just take that whole section out, and if you don't have 4, you table whatever it is.
When they talk about quorum, it's at the beginning of the meeting. Do we have
Right,
enough people
So
to
then
conduct business?
There's 4 people. One of them is recused. Now you have a 3-2 vote. You have a 2 vote. That's,
I don't think you're gonna have that, do we?
I would say it doesn't equal a quorum if that person's necessary as staff.
Is there guidance somewhere?
R1R.
Doesn't our conflict make sense?
For those present. And if Ms. X, who has a conflict of interest, is there for quorum but cannot vote, you still can do voting because you have quorum. What happens if someone abstains?
Well, abstain is a vote. It's not a quorum. I think if you keep those in, it's internally inconsistent. You're saying it's inappropriate in one case and appropriate in another case. Some of the conflict of interest can vote. It's internally inconsistent.
It's totally consistent.
No,
If
not,
you-
No, because there's no member.
If you
no
have
member shall
quorum,
vote unless the member is present.
if you have quorum, you can conduct.
that's my
business.
point.
If you have quorum, you can conduct business. Now that
If you have-
now that you're conducting business, okay. Ms. X, or actually Mr. Y says, well, I'm gonna abstain from this. So if you abstain, that doesn't count. You have
Gentlemen, if I
those left.
may,
But that's if he abstains, but like I said, it says here, this is no member shall vote unless the member there. So
That's
if
not what
if
we're
it's not.
discussing.
That's what I'm discussing.
Oh, I
What we're talking about.
I mean, I was trying to explain how it would work.
Right.
it sounds like this section in yellow, we have some questions. We have about 2 minutes to go to hit our 30.
Okay, let's move on.
And
Yeah,
so
but
I
at
would
this point,
ask is, I'm just gonna leave this in yellow that we likely need to revisit it. Are there other comments regarding the section conflict of interest?
Other than of course. Okay, never mind, it's a ranger, never mind.
How are you moving the word file around through a big page?
Like this?
No,
It's on my computer right here.
okay, okay. No,
Yeah,
you keep going.
I'm just presenting. All right, enforcement and, amending the bylaws.
I have a whole bunch of faith on amending the bylaws, but okay. My look at amending bylaws is you go through the process of amending bylaws. Then in other organizations, the committee reviews them, it doesn't vote on them that, that meeting. They review them, they get it, and then they come to the next meeting to review and vote or not, approve or not approve the bylaws. So what I'm trying to say is, say the group, the commissioner gets together and says, okay, I want to change the bylaws. Fine, then we have one meeting to go through so that everybody looks at it and see the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then come back to the next meeting and vote yea, nay, or a change or whatever.
I'm sure we're at that. So at this point, we either table this to next meeting, or if there's a motion, we can extend for, maybe 5 minutes and determine what our next step is. So
I'm fine with making a motion to table it at where we are, because we're real close, and that'll give us time to
Find out the right answer.
get this back to the staff to kick it back out to us, and then we can, hit it again, only quicker, because it'll be less.
Yeah, I can go through and regurgitate to what we've all agreed on here. And then it sounds like you guys still want to talk about that conflict of interest section as well as the preamble.
Right.
So you guys can think about that. Come back at our next meeting, maybe not the 3rd, maybe the 17th,
Yeah.
I'm not sure yet.
Right,
It'll be on another
Table it to the
agenda.
next, regular meeting.
regular meeting.
Well, second.
Been moved and
all in
seconded.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Congratulations. Okay. So, if discussion,
Anything else started? So, let's see if I put things in. Hold on. Discussing some odds and ends with the chair, with the fact that there's an annual review of the SIP that happens, it's like starting June, July timeframe usually. And so there was a lot of things we discussed, there was a lot of recommendations, and I'm not speaking for Will at this point, but at least from my angle, is start to see if some of these things we outlined in our letter and our advising of the board, if any of those, to what extent are starting to move forward. Because those components, in my opinion, will be very important to this whole comp plan eventually.
if I can just add on, so on 16 September last year, we approved the 2025-2030 SIP along with a letter of recommendation. We had three primary recommendations for the county to consider: develop system plans where none exist, I'm paraphrasing, required defined project descriptions, scope descriptions, and going forward, look to using the Department of Commerce's capital facilities planning guidebook. And 14 days later, on 30 September, the community planning briefed the BOCC on the PAC recommendation. And during that discussion, our county administrator expressed a desire to better understand the expectations and provide feedback to the PAC. And then, basically 2 months later, on 3 December, the BOCC approved the 2025-2030 SIP. A couple of weeks ago, talking with community planning, I asked the question, so how is the county coming on those recommendations? What actions, if any, have been taken? And the answer was they aren't totally sure. They don't know, because many of the actions are outside of community planning, and it was suggested that we go ask Mr. Neary, our county advisor, or county administrator, the status of that.
So what we're saying is we'd like permission from the commission. Both the chair and I was the chair of the subcommittee for the capital facilities to meet with, Mark and others about that and bring that back to this committee, in a summary form of where we are, what's happening, at least the big picture.
Basically, is anything happening?
Fine with me.
So this isn't a change in your recommendation, it's just
Just
checking up on it. Are you doing anything?
We're
Okay,
not changing a darn thing.
you're just checking in.
Wanted to where
What are
we
you doing?
We would never, we cannot do that, one, but two,
Right.
this committee would have to, in its entirety, would have to change.
Okay. I got it, thank you.
What do you think, Brad?
Yeah, I was actually looking at the agenda, and so I have no comment. I was trying to look at the packet, so I'm no comment.
Report back.
Yeah, move that the chair and the PAC chair and the chair of the subcommittee last year sit down with our county administrator, determine the status of these recommendations, what's going on.
And report back.
There a second?
I'll let somebody else second. One second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
And then just one quick one, comp plan final review. I did talk to staff here this past week late and asked, hey, in the end, basically, will we have a final comp plan to look at? The answer is yes. So we will actually see the complete comp plan. And as I've been thinking, and this is just Will's personal thoughts, is I am wondering if the recommendation is going to be as simple as recommend or don't recommend. Or if potentially it's going to be like the SIP where it comes with other comments. Okay. Given where we're at right now, we've seen housing, we'll see the environment and rural today, we'll see we've seen economic development, we will see parks and recreation, but we haven't seen utilities, we haven't seen roads, we haven't seen capital improvements, we haven't seen climate change. And we have 84 days between now and 19 May, which is quote the approval date. And 84 days is going to come very, very quick. And so what I'm asking you is just be thoughtful of what all's coming and be thoughtful of how can, if the recommendation is very clear, yes, approve this as written, boom, done, and there's no other issues, that's fine. I'm thinking right now that I will likely, in a different light, my recommendation would likely be approved, but be aware of. And here's the list of observations that I would have going forward to my boss. Okay, so just think about how we might do that in the next 84 calendar days. And I just, frankly, when I did the math and realized we're 84 days out, that scared me. Okay, so that's all I have on that. All right, Public
Can I
comment.
say something real quick on that? My understanding is it would give our deliverable on the 19th of May. Is it an up or down vote? Because my understanding of the process is they have from then until the end of the year to come up with their deliverable to the state. My understanding was it'd be kind of a back and forth. You know, well, what about this? What about that? What about that? Rather than strict up and down vote. Is that
So
incorrect? I don't know.
let me try
I
and
mean, if they
speak
vote it
to,
down, it's gonna happen that way anyway.
let me try and speak to that. Marissa will correct me if I booger it up. I want to see if I got it right. So we will provide a recommendation. That recommendation will be provided by staff to BOCC. And by the end of June, the BOCC needs to provide a draft comprehensive plan in its entirety to the state. And by doing that, then that secures the remaining amount of funding that's coming. I got it wrong. You do it.
Okay. For the purposes of the grant, we need the draft. So each one of the elements, we should have a draft. You know, for the purposes of the grant, so we can send that draft to Commerce as a deliverable to get the rest of our grant money. So we can continue working. We, at that point of giving that draft to Commerce, you may have a list of concerns with each of the elements still, right? There might be some comments that still need to be addressed. So we can still address those after that draft that goes to Commerce. It's just making sure that we are pretty much on the right track.
Okay.
So Commerce can give us feedback as well. So, yeah, we want to be as far as we can by that, by May. But I'm pretty positive we're still gonna have comments that we're gonna have to address after we send that draft for the purposes of the grant. The BOCC does not have to make their recommendation to
Okay.
Commerce by then, so.
Will the BOCC see the draft?
They have left it up to staff whether we bring each element to them or bring a full draft. So, I could potentially bring a draft at that point as well to the BOC, brief them on it to see if they have any changes. So, I mean, that'll be a discussion as we get closer, whether that is needed at that time.
So June is when staff gives a preliminary draft to the Commerce, I guess, for the purpose of the grants.
Yeah.
But the BOCC deadline, their official final approval is end of December. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Any other comments on that? All right. Public comment for, so we will now take public comment for topics that are relevant to the PAC, but not on the agenda. Public comment period is for those items on the agenda tonight. We will limit it to 3 minutes per person. Total time allotted is 15 minutes for the non-agenda items. If you would, please just state your name and where you generally live in the county. Please do not provide your home address. And tonight, we will start opposite from last meeting, and we will start in the room for public comment. So does anyone? Yes, Mr. Ackley.
Hello, my name's Jacob Ackley, Arcadia area. I just like to say thank you to the PAC for increasing the space for public comment and not public comment, for people to come in. I think it's important for there to be people who can, for everyone who wants to be able to come and see what's going on with our government. We've also passed 700 respondents in the survey, which proves that there is a lot of people in this county who do care about what's going on, and a lot of people who have opinions to say and want better for our county.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ackley. Anyone else in the room? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kirsty Rose. I live over by Lake Millwood. And I just would like to say thank you for considering a new location to allow more public access. I think that's greatly needed. That being said, I'd like to ask the PAC to consider that public comment should have a longer time frame than just 15 minutes, as that only allows 5 members of the public to speak on pertaining to issues of the PAC. And while it's rare, there may be times where there are large groups in this room, like there has been fairly recently. And I believe that everyone who wishes to make comments should be allowed to voice them, their opinions or grievances, especially if it may assist the PAC in their operations, conduct, and decisions. And as it was mentioned, the chairman can simply move on to the next section if there is not comment that fills that time. But I do think it needs to be longer than 15
Thank you,
minutes.
Ms. Rose. Anyone else in the room would like to make a comment? Yes, Ms. Gale.
My name's Julianne. I live in the outskirts of Belfair. And I also want to say thank you for making space so that we can have more people here, because the more that people hear about this, the more they want to get involved. And I'm wondering if it's possible for the special meeting next week to also be in a bigger space, because I imagine many members of the public would benefit from hearing from the Department of Commerce to have the same baseline knowledge that you all get to have. And then I would like to reiterate Kirsty's point on making enough space that people's voices get heard. The PAC is there to represent the community and advise the county commissioners, and I think you all will do a better job representing the whole community if you can hear from more voices. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gale. And with that, I just want to say thank you, staff. It's the hard work of Marantha and Marissa and Kel that has been doing the work behind the scenes. We're the folks who get to look good because they're doing the hard work. So thank you for what you do. Any likelihood of next week's meeting moving? Okay, so if we do, I want to address directly the trying to get more people involved. Is Zoom is available, but I will limit this to 40 people in the room. So this is what we're going to do. Anyone else in the room would like to make a comment? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My name is Anderson Porter and I live in the Hillcrest community. I just wanted to come up here and say I think it's important that we get a bigger place to have more people in the community, like being able to contribute to the conversation. And I do agree that we should have more time to have public comment. I also think it is important that there is availability to have public comment, not just out loud, but also sending it in like documents. And I think it is important to not put a limit on the number of pages or words that they can have, so that you can have all the information that they expected to provide. How's it?
All right, thank you, Mr. Porter. Anyone else in the room? Any other hands in the room? So moving to Zoom, is there anyone in Zoom that would like to make a public comment on a non-agenda topic related to the PAC? If so, if you would please click the little hand button in the middle of your screen at the bottom that says raise hand, and we'll identify you. I see no one in the Zoom room with a hand raised. And anyone coming back in the room? Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Going.
My name is Terry. I'm a resident of Pitt Creek Passage, and I appreciate the meeting tonight. And one of the ways that you could help us provide excellent comments to you is to get the materials earlier. So the reason that we can't get you our comments earlier is because we don't get them until later. So if we could back the system up a little bit, so if you set your agenda 2 weeks out, we have a week to look at it, we get them to you within a week, we perhaps could do some more magic and get you the information that you need to make your decisions earlier and be able to read it. Make sense?
Anyone else in the room? One last call in Zoom space. Seeing none, we will close public comment, non-agenda related
I have
public.
one more.
Oh. We don't buy it. Safe environment.
Do you guys, also, sorry, do you all, make sure to listen to what people have to say whenever it comes to like problems that we're facing in the community?
The question was, do you all listen to the comments that people give, when there are problems in the community that we're bringing to your attention?
Any comment we receive, we listen to. I personally try and take notes, but if you send it to us, we'll look at it.
Cool.
All right, thank you.
I put a name.
Marcel.
All right. Seeing no more comments, we'll move on. Move on to the working section, comprehensive plan update. First section is chapter 8, parks and trails. We have 30 minutes set aside for that. Okay. Just do that.
I know where it's going.
Yeah. Turn those off. Right. So staff presentation.
So this has already been mentioned earlier, but today we're going to be reviewing chapter 8, Parks and Trails reference, and the chapter 7 of Rural and Natural Environment chapter. So that was previously just the rural chapter. So a little bit of change in the naming there. March 3rd, as mentioned before, we've heard about that. We're going to have presentations, and then on March 17th, we have the economic element revised. That's the plan, is to have that revised version of the economic element and the housing element. And as discussed, that's going to get at Public Works. So Parks and Trails reference. Now, Parks and Trails is reviewed by the Parks and Trails Committee, the cost plan. And it's reviewed by the Mason County Parks and Trails Advisory Board. They provide recommendations, just like you guys do, to the Board of Commissioners on the planning and acquisition and development of parks, trails, and related programs in Mason County. There are also 7 board members, 2 from each district and 1 at large, and I believe there is 1 opening on that board. Just so everyone knows. They meet every 4th Thursday of the month at 4 p.m. And currently, the staff, last time I heard, would be the county administrator, Mark Neary. Previously, Diane Zorn was staffing that, and he has retired. This particular section, comments will be limited on this to the length of the reference and whether some kind of conclusion would be desired. Whether we want to put in some kind of information about consistency of the Parks and Trails plan with other elements. But the Parks and Trails plan is not in the scope of our review to update this periodic update. If there's any comments on the actual content of the plan, I would recommend giving those comments to Mark Neary, as he would be helping the commission to update that, our staff for staff's action update. So today's comments, like I said, limited to if we want to add some kind of paragraph connecting, are talking about consistency between the other elements in the parks plan. But the actual content, we can't change. That's the adopted plan. It was adopted in March of 2022, so not quite 3 years has passed on that. I did add the language that's in that reference right now. That's what the consultant pulled from the cross plan. The only thing that I changed was that it has a statement there about adoption by reference, but I also included R as amended thereafter, because it most likely will be amended sometime after we adopt this plan. So not, but at least I haven't heard any recent plans to update it soon. So I do not have much to say on this section. So I'm going to turn it over to the chair to continue with the process for review.
Any members of the PAC have questions for the staff?
Only one. You mentioned that you were thinking about creating a conclusion. Or summing it up, so to speak. Will we gonna still do that or?
I mean, if you guys desire to put some statement of your own, you know, I think that's completely fine. It's just the content of the others and, you know, it comes directly from that plan. So
Right.
that's changing, it won't make a difference.
No, I'm not after.
Yeah.
After changing it, I'm really kind of after personally trying to reduce the repeat text. You know, so to speak, I realize it's part of the comp plan, but if it's referencing and you got it, for sake of argument, you have this adopted comp plan or comprehensive plan for parks. I don't want to have a bunch of data in here that we have to kind of keep matching up to the parks plan.
Keep it real short.
Real short, even shorter than what we got here. I'd be happy. Because there's issues I have with the parks plan, but and concerns I have with the parks plan, but as far as this document referencing that document, I think it should be shorter, more. Here's the introduction. Here's the what we have, and this and in their adoption of their subplan, here's the conclusion. I mean, it's really, in my opinion, not a lot. We need all this extra text because already, to one degree or another, said in the other document.
Is there a requirement from a state perspective to have a minimum amount of information, or can we simply say as referenced?
That as well, I think the consultant just, wanted to provide something, and if you wanted to whittle it down, that was up to you.
The other thing I could say about that is, I went to Department of Commerce's website. They had a section on parks and open spaces. To me, they were laying out concepts of what the state wants. I could see that going in this document. So when somebody looks at this, that they know what we're considering, what the county is considering. Something to that extent, but that would be about as far as I go that way. And then again, more or less introduction. There's a need to what we have. In this, conclusion referenced in such and such document.
Other opinions, thoughts?
As far as we're concerned, this is reference information.
Right.
Right. Ain't much we can do with it.
There's issues that need to be corrected.
Yeah, but guess what?
Not here.
So has the Parks and Trail Advisory Board seen this draft element as written?
Not the reference.
Okay, good. Yeah. All right. So any other questions for staff? All right. Public comment. Does anyone have any public comment regarding to, I believe that's Ms. Rose.
We should explain,
One second, please.
we should explain one thing. At least the direction we're going, if I understand correctly, in workshops, you're not limited to 3 minutes.
Okay.
Or 15 minutes, excuse me.
The 3 minutes, not 15
Three,
minutes.
the
Okay.
three, we will listen to comments as long as they keep coming. We
But
do
3
limit
minutes,
individuals.
each individual 3 minutes, but not the, I mean, if there's like 20 people, we're gonna hear all 20 people.
Just like short-term rentals, we hear from now on, and it's fine.
No, my name is Kirsty Rose. And according to the document, our county has a deficit of over 100 acres of parkland and open space. And I believe it may be within the scope of the PAC to suggest that there may be a link with this element and the rural development as well as transportation element. If you notice in figure 8.1, there is a lack of parks north of Route 3 in our more rural communities where there also is a lack of access to public transportation. I think it would greatly benefit our communities to have verbiage that is pushing for more access to exercise parks, running tracks, bike trails, things like that. Within our rural communities, I think it would greatly benefit the mental and physical health of our community.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Ackley.
I don't know. Hello, Chica back again. I just like to say, I think parks are very important to the health of a community. And like, I don't know if you have control of the Johnson Creek Trail, whatever, the one over by the library, but okay. Like, I noticed a lot of, like, I don't really know where a lot of the parks are, and some of the ones that I've been to, at least not sure exactly which ones are city or county, but I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of damage to them. They're not necessarily always in the best condition, it feels like. They're fun, but I don't know, I just think it'd be kind of beneficial to know more about the parks, and we need to keep the parks in good quality so there's something to talk about, so there's something to do here, so people don't just go to Olympia to go for exercise, so people here have something to be proud of.
Exactly. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Alan Ramirez. I live in the Shelton area, metropolitan area, I guess you could say. I just wanted to say that if you are going to make a sort of like general recommendation to the Parks and Rec people, to tell them that, at least I think a lot of the people in Mason County would agree that a lot of the beauty from our parks isn't from the complexity of the structures there. It's more so from the fact that it's just kind of like a gated off area where you can be like, now this is the community space where we can all come and look at the nature that's already here. So not like cutting down trees to put in like a baseball field or something, although those are appreciated. Had a lot of fun at some baseball fields. But yeah, just kind of appreciating nature and the fact that a lot of the parks here are very simple, and that's what makes them so beautiful. I'd also like to say that could probably also tell them to encourage more cooperation between like the county or Parks and Rec, whoever would be responsible for those parks. More collaboration between them and community members, because I know I was actually looking through the document and it does say that they do allow for community members to help with not just the upkeep, but sort of like the beginning of the founding of parks, if I understand correctly. And I think that that's something that should really be emphasized. So if you could just, I guess, forward this. Okay. And I will also be forwarding this to the correct person. So thank you for providing that information.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Scam.
I'm Julianne. I live just outside of Belfair. And speaking to the request to talk about consistency, I think it would be really great to have a line in there about being consistent with the countywide planning policies. We had a really lovely addition into the countywide planning policies about maintaining our parks and trails. And so I think that would be excellent, as well as consistency with the climate change element, because there are pieces related to open spaces that are very important for our climate resilience in our community. And I would love to see I would love to see consistency across all the documents. We've been talking about that for many months now. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else in the room? Oh.
Good evening, I'm Sherry Dysart and I live south of Lake Isabella. And I just wanted to point out on page 7 of when I printed it out, under the level of services, standards and needs assessment, the paragraph that begins, as discussed elsewhere in this comprehensive plan, Mason County is projected to be one of the Washington's fastest growing counties over the next 20 years, which will drive increased demands for parks and recreation services. And so kind of align with those comments here about how important it is to maintain what we have and how more challenging that be with climate change impacting our area. And then I also want to just tell you something I learned recently that is very thrilling, and I didn't know about it until recently, so maybe y'all didn't know about this. So anyway, our local YMCA has a program called ACT, A-C-T exclamation point, which stands for Actively Changing Together. And so this is a program where families can go on hikes, which one increases, reduces screen time being on a computer, and increases physical activity fitness for our kids. And my understanding is that the YMCA works with physicians in our area. And so the doctors and the families work together as a way in which to have the family involved in physical fitness activities on hiking in our beautiful area. So I was thrilled by that whole idea. And if you didn't know about it, I wanted you to get thrilled by it too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room? Is there anyone in Zoom land that would like to make a comment on the Parks and Trails section, chapter 8?
Karen had her hand up.
Okay.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Karen Leaf with the Economic Development Council. Just wanted to let you all know that the EDC supports the findings of the adopted PROPS plan and encourages the county to continue developing strategies to support outdoor recreation. We are also supportive of the county's efforts to acquire Mason Lake Recreation Area from Green Diamond. This will be a great opportunity to preserve open space and expand opportunities for the public to recreate in Mason County. This is an acquisition identified in the post and currently under consideration by the county. The opportunity should not be missed. And then additional work should be done to expand boating access in Mason County's waterways. As an example, there is currently only one free boat ramp to access Hood Canal in Mason County, and that is in Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Karen. Anyone else in Zoom land?
One more second.
You bet.
I'm not seeing anyone.
And we got one in the room, but we'll take that and then we'll go back to Zoom.
I just want to make sure somebody on Zoom has the ability to speak, so.
Yeah, no,
I appreciate what you're trying to do, incorporating the Parks and Rec plan in here by reference. I think that's great.
Your name again?
Terry
Pickering.
So one of the things that I think we often forget, and this is not my first comp plan, I'm a newbie, I've only been here 35 years, is that we don't recognize the various entities that have parks and recreational areas for us, the ports, their boat ramps, the state, the feds, everybody else. So if we could put a paragraph in here that says, don't forget, these are Mason County owned and operated, but we have this other variety of things in this, that we can rely on and our citizens can use. I think that would be helpful for folks to see. Doesn't discount anything that we need to do in terms of increasing Mason County parks and abilities, but recognize those other contributors. I mean, we have boat ramps, in Hood Canal, up north, etc. So something to consider.
Thank you, Ms. Pickering. Any other comments in the room? Anyone else in Zoom land? Public comments closed for chapter 8 Parks and Trails. We'll move on to PAC discussion and recommendations. I'll jump in if it's okay. So I am going to start by sharing my screen. And I just share a screen. This works. Okay. So couple of comments from my perspective. One, I want to build on what Ms. Pickering just said. I totally agree, because when we look at, this is the Parks and Recreation, and when we look at our inventory, this is what we have for our citizens. State parks are not on here. What's available at ports is not on here.
In the post plan, they do have the state, the feds, a number of other things. So this is the problem, the issue I'm raising about consolidating the reference.
Again, it's reference.
Well, okay, where is it in the post? Because
Remember, it's there, but we're not gonna change it.
no, but I'm struggling, because I went through and I looked at, here's the inventory.
Yeah.
And the inventory in section just theoretically straight out of the post.
But there's an inventory of county, and then there's an inventory, like you have the Port of Allen, and have the, in the post.
What I'm struggling with then is, we come down here and we talk about level of service. This is what needs to be provided for the citizens. And this is where we have, we're either under or over, we have a deficit or an excess.
Yeah.
And it's very nice. It looks now, it looks forward. Okay. And again, it's using, from numbers from 3 years ago. But if this doesn't include
I'm not
the state
disagreeing,
assets.
I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, but I'm saying if we're to reference this, why you know what I'm trying to say, in other words, why would we go through the whole process of listing everybody out again? Then it's like, it's maintaining two lists.
And I'm looking at the list going, I think it's incomplete. Because I think this lists county assets.
And then you remember the guidance we're given.
We can replicate, we can't change the post, but we can summarize the post. And I'm liking your idea more and more of one paragraph. Because,
I mean, I don't disagree that you need these references. People need to know, the Fed. I'm just trying to get away from duplicating it, because I saw it in there.
Well, this is where I struggle. Here's the post, and why is that not?
Technology.
Well, I guess I have to reshare every time I go from one document to another. That's unfortunate.
Those ratios they're talking about, I guess the requirements, is that county government responsible, or is that like, this is what we'd like to see in the whole county, including all sources like state parks?
Well, there's like an organization that gives, like, for every 1,000 people, there's so many acres of this, of the 4 different groups of parks they talk about, like the neighborhood, the community, the regional, and whatever the other one was. There's like 4 levels.
But
The natural open spaces.
can you address that, Marissa? So when we have a level of service of whatever, 1 racquetball court for 5,000 people, is that 1 racquetball court within the boundaries of the county, or 1 racquetball court provided by the county? If a state racquetball court, does it count?
Well, if you look in the cross plan, it breaks the parks into neighborhood parks, open space, and then it says you need so many acres of this for so many people, like you were mentioning. Part or county provided or within the county is your question.
Correct. Can we take credit for state parks being in the county, or is that separate? And the county has to provide above and beyond it. It has to provide their own assets to their members.
Well, I think that's something, I mean, when you go and approve the cost plan, they can decide if they want.
Okay.
I mean, we're not required to have a parks and trail plan, but the county decides to have one, so. I mean, they could choose a different level of service too, you know, if they can't provide it, they could choose a different level of service.
But my question is, they have these required ratios. For example, the city has parks, YMCA put an outdoor basketball court down there. I mean, like Will said, does that count? I mean, are the ratios the desires for inside, like you're saying, inside the county limits, or is the ratios our requirement as a county government?
So this would be a better conversation for Mark Neary.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
So we don't know tonight is the answer.
Okay, got it. Thank
That's
you.
fine. The other, I guess, two other observations is this is a survey. These are survey results. This is the post you're looking at. And what I want you to look at is green is I strongly agree or I agree. And then the strongly disagree is the red and the very dark brown there on the far right-hand side. The left-hand side is the agree. And what I want people to look at here is if you sort of look at this top 5 where you see the bigger green bars, you have, we want more undeveloped natural open space. We want trails. We want water access. We want support amenities. We want youth camps. And what you don't see though is down below here are sports courts, baseball and tennis, ball fields are at the bottom. And I found that interesting because when I looked at what we were reading, there was a lot of focus on ball fields. I'm looking at what the citizens stated here 3 years ago and going, that's not what I see the citizens asking for. Again, that's outside of our scope, but I think it feeds to what Jeff is saying. There's one other I want to point to is if you read the goals at the end, I was frustrated with the goals and then I read the Prost and that helped me a lot. Because what you see here is, the goals, we see goal 1, administration, and what's in the Prost is that first paragraph, quality professional personnel, this section right here. And then you see below that where it says indicators, by 2027, we will have assessments, blah, blah. That's in the Prost. But these elements, the lower ones, the means of verification and the assumptions are not. And when you go through this plan, what really surprised me was, the real meat is down in this area, is down in the indicators. And when you go through the indicators, by 2027, we're gonna have assessment, we're gonna have an ad hoc advisory group. Here's another 2027, feedback from individuals. But come down here. These are all 2027s, it's this one. By 2023, Mason County Parks and Rec will have completed promotional materials and activities. Is that done? It was 2 years ago. That's history. Here's another 2023, and here's 2 more. Have we pulled all our stakeholders? And sort of my question is before, to your point, before we reference a lot of this, have some of these basic steps that are 18 months in our history complete? And if they're not, that just feeds me more to where I think this plan needs a relook. That's where I'm liking what you're saying, Jeff. Go with a paragraph or 2 saying reference. And the other big piece, I guess we need guidance from staff. I just really feel we should somewhere put a sentence that says, there's a strong interest, we're investing $90,000 to $100,000 as a county in looking at the south end of Mason Lake. And depending upon the
How
number.
much?
About 100,000.
Okay.
There's a approved study to look at the
Well,
feasibility.
it's a study.
It's a study. We aren't, yeah, there's a study determining the feasibility of what can be done. How would we do it, potential costs, et cetera. So the Board of County Commissioners and the rest of the staff.
And the real bucks, yeah.
Yeah, they basically can start to make an informed decision as opposed to hearsay, if you will. You know, but again, I've heard officials state two numbers, as low as 10, as high as $25 million for this. Okay, and again, I'm not stating either one of those are correct. I'm not saying it's within those boundaries. I would be surprised if it's less. Okay, but the question is with that as a fairly significant asset that we would have as a county, but also fairly significant outlay depending upon what could be worked to acquire that. And again, there's a lot of possibilities on how that might be done. I just think it deserves a sentence somewhere in the comp plan. That's my opinion.
The problem I have is the plan and the capital facilities and all these plans don't have that in there.
No, nothing has to.
And so.
Maybe we leave it off.
And so if we're being asked to approve by reference. And we're being asked not to address the plan. It drives me nuts, don't get me wrong, because I know I can see inconsistencies. I mean, I remember the gal that just retired explained to Mark and Nick myself about the fact that, you know, we don't have enough money as it is and the funding to take care of the assets we have. And when you look at the general annual parks, and it's a little confusing because it's broken up by administrative and what have you, but it appears that, you know, 2/3 of the budget is salaries. Another big chunk is utilities because of parks, lights, water, you know, that kind of stuff. And less than 30,000 to basically make improvements or, you know, even fix that.
That's the materials.
Yeah.
Well, I think we heard that this evening from one of our citizens here.
So anyway, back to the task at hand. I think somebody more clever with words than I could come up with a way of summarizing this thing into a page or two or three.
Seems to me that this is reference only.
Yeah.
We should have a disclaimer that says that we're including this as reference only and have no say in that. We're neither here nor there. I mean, we have no oversight. We have no forcing function. We're given this stuff.
And whether I agree with the plan or not, the post plan, it's more comprehensive than say like utilities currently. So it's going in the right direction. I don't agree that where it's ended up yet, but it's going in the right direction.
What do you think, Mike?
I agree with, Sheriff John.
So a sentence.
Well, let's hear from our the new guy.
No, that's, like I said, if we don't have much really say in it, I mean, we can all just recommendations from what they brought to us, so. And it's great on, but there's not much we can do with it.
Well, and I wouldn't feel this restating because it's just a double set of numbers, guys. Keep synchronizing and reconciling between the two documents.
Brad, do you have any thoughts?
Nope.
Yeah, apparently we have no decision-making ability or whatever. I think a short statement is
Forcing
works for me.
Forcing function.
Yeah, our decision is what do we recommend go in comp plan? Recognizing that it can be as little as a reference, it could be, I guess technically, everything that's in the approach. This dump it in there. You know, those would be the extremes on both
But
ends.
even the pros, we have no ability, it's just a bunch of text.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we cannot modify that text. That's locked.
Yeah, the prost is cast in stone, right?
It's
For
correct.
now.
It'll be likely
So
addressed in a couple of
what's
years.
in the prost is, what goes into the comp plan? The prost are recommendations, some combination.
To me, it's just reference.
Is there any other discussion? Does someone have a motion? I have what in my head, but.
Well, I don't know how to word the motion, but my drive is summarize this in a page or two. Whatever looks legit, you know, introduction, there probably is an introduction, there's probably a conclusion from the other plan. Or there's a summary conclusion from us, but basically, it shouldn't be more than a couple pages, max.
But does that get in the comp plan or recommendation?
Yeah, no, well, I mean.
Well, that's my question.
Well, I mean,
So-
this text would get in the comp plan, I mean, it'd be, if it's 3 pages, these 3 pages would be in section 8.
Let me, if you will, would this be your motion? I move that we revise the draft section 8 to be 1, maybe 2 pages. That includes a brief overview of the prost, a brief summary of the prost, and conclusions.
That's a good start. I'll
I
second
mean,
that.
well, your words, I'm just trying to put the words,
I'll make it.
I'm not.
Hey, Jeff, he's telling you what the motion, he wants the motion to say.
No, I'm trying to.
So nobody can formulate the words.
Trying to help him formulate words, and if I got it wrong, then don't do it.
No,
Okay.
I'm fine exactly with what you're saying, because it's a summary. I mean, it's a start, I mean, I've heard as short as 1 sentence, but I think it's probably a little bit more than 1 sentence.
I'm still waiting for, maybe I'm too slow, but my question is, suppose we come up with our statement and it deviates from what the post is.
It can't.
No, we're not.
We're not allowed to deviate from the
Can't
post.
deviate from the post.
It's not my intent
Yeah.
to deviate.
But if we reference the pros in whatever words we use. Okay, we're just saying, go look at that,
I stopped when we're taking public comment.
right?
Well, I just say it's.
I'm at a loss as to what we want to do, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to make.
What,
And we do have questions on the post, like one
But-
Kelso had to talk to Mark about.
but that's outside of the scope of the comp plan. We may have questions with the pros, we may have advice for the pros, but that's outside of the comp plan. That's something for Mr. Neary to deal with at a later date, but not in the next 4 days or whatever that is.
So we just have a statement saying, go look at the post, I guess.
Largely,
I'd like to make a motion for the PAC. Basically to have staff summarize this in a few pages as possible. Kind of an introduction of the parks. And basically a conclusion. And reference the post, all the materials in this. I do not think we want to be keeping double sets of numbers in different documents.
no duplicate tables, no duplicate reference to the level of service,
Right.
none of that.
Right.
Who's gonna do all this stuff, by the way?
Well, if I may,
Would be giving SCJ your feedback
Sure.
to do something more hard down without including those here.
So is the post part of the comp plan or is it a separate entity?
So, okay, so it's already, the Parks and Trails element, which is the PROS plan,
That's like,
is already adopted by reference. It was adopted last plan. So this plan, all the consultants thinking was they want people to be able to look at the whole comp plan and not see, oh, there's a chapter 8 missing.
right,
So at least they have a reference that the chapter 8 is the PROS plan. It's, people can reference to look at the PROS plan and.
So the comp plan references the pros, but the pros is not part of the comp plan. Is that true?
It's part of it, but it's adopted by reference. We're not updating it in this periodic update. That's not your guys' responsibility.
Right. But if it's already part of the comp plan,
Not every element is included in every update because the Parks and Trails is it's not a mandatory, it's not mandatory it's an optional element, just like the economic development.
okay,
So
I'll go along with it.
I'll try again. I'd like to make a motion to create a summary for section 8, addressing the parks, Mesa County parks. That's a summary that has no tables, is mainly referencing the pros. And summing up the pros. Created by the contractor. It's about as good as I can get, sorry.
Do I hear a second?
I'll
All in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Thanks, Brad.
I know,
Yeah, thumbs
you
up.
got thumbs up,
Thank you.
it's good. All right, next is the rural and natural environment staff.
Could I ask for a timeout? I drank too much water.
Whatever,
Yeah, let's have a,
recess.
let's have a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 7:55 on that clock.
Perfect, thank you.
Right. All right, we are back, Brad, we're back, and so, our pause is over, everyone feels a little better, so we will move on now to, chapter 7, rural and natural environment. Staff? These things are annoying, but they work.
Okay, so chapter 7, currently just the rural element is now rural natural environment. So attached to the staff summary packet was also the GMA checklist section that was just related to the rural requirements. And I'm gonna pull that up so we can review that. I do want to know on the checklist there, on the checklist, statutory changes adopted since 2015 were highlighted by the state in yellow. In some cases, the county may have already addressed some of those required changes, and some sections of the checklist may not have new requirements since last cycle. So since our last periodic update. So this is the checklist that I was talking about. On the very left side is a discussion of the requirements we need to meet by the state. And then the RCW reference is up there at the top. It asks us whether our current plan meets those requirements, and if yes, reference. If we need to make changes, yes or no. In some cases, in some of the sections that we'll review later on, the consultant said maybe so there might be further review that we needed to do. They did the checklist early on in the review process, so there might be things that we find later on that do need to be updated as we go along. So, and then in the very right column, there are other sections beyond the rural element that may talk about ideas that are listed in those references. So the RCW references about rural densities, the need for, natural sources, open space. So this column over here is going to talk about different, areas in the plan that may be related, but not particularly in the rural element itself. So, as you can see from the checklist, some of the requirements that are required from a rural element have to do with rural densities. So if you look through the draft that was provided in the packet, it talks about rural residential densities, such as rural residential 5, 10, 20. It has some rural commercial uses, rural industrial, rural natural resource. It also has some rural tourist and rural tourist campground zoning designations as well. And then there has to be an explanation how those rural densities and uses that we provided in that plan, how it harmonizes with the goals of GMA. There also has to be a discussion about forestry and agriculture in rural areas. And then it already talked about rural densities, but we have to also include the ability to cite essential public facilities and government services. But this is services at rural levels, not urban levels. And that's particularly to protect the rural character of the area as well. And then, so, like I said, policies that limit urban services. If we have rural commercial and industrial out in the rural area, it can't require levels that urban development would. So, and then there's also optional techniques that we can talk about in the rural and natural environment element. And these are some, sorry, can't hear myself. So there's some optional techniques for the rural area. We do talk about some of those in the graph. So it talks about clustering, it talks about conservation and open space as well. So based on the checklist, it's the opinion of the consultants and staff that our current draft meets state mandates. So meets state mandates. That doesn't mean we can't, do more, but I'm just saying that is the opinion that it meets state mandates. But we can always go beyond that. I'm going to stop sharing that one. We'll go back to my third. So, revision. So, the revisions of the draft you received, if you looked in the very right column, you saw from the consultant that it says adapted with additions. So, he did know where he put something new or addition. So, when it says just adapted, there's no substantive change in the language. Either, in some cases, he combined two sections that talked about the same thing, just to make it more cohesive. And then where he did add new information, he would note in that sidebar in the comments where that was. So in the introduction, it was adapted from the original draft 1 section with some information included from our survey from the beginning of our process, so that countywide, that vision survey. So in that first paragraph, there's a little of adaptation of information from the survey. Then in 7.1.1, Growth Management Act guidance, adapted from the original section 3. So section 1 and 3 information.gma were just combined. 7.2.1 real character, same as section 4 from the original draft. With our revised vision statement that the PAC acted upon at their January 13th. Then we have a 7.2.2 inventory of rural land uses. This is a new section, but it basically combines information from the original draft, section 4, to more clearly define the variety of rural land uses that are allowed and their densities. So this section is a little less scattered than our original draft, and it still meets section 8 of the rural element GMA checklist. We have a section on limited areas and more intense rural development, that's 7.2.3. The consultant adapted that from the original section 9 of the rural element, and this also meets section 8 of the GMA checklist. 7.3 open space adapted from the original section 6 with an addition of a paragraph regarding open space in the frost land. 7.4 natural resource land adapted from section 10 of the original draft. With new text and information added from Mason County, so from the existing Mason County resource limits and latest USDA ag census information. So that's 7.4 natural resource. So critical, the next two sections, 7.4.5 and 0.6, critical areas. So this is just a section that references critical areas. The 7.4.6 references shorelines. There's discussion on both those topics in the land use element, which is forthcoming for us to review. And we combined, there's actually, there was a small section, small bit amount of text compared to the land use element regarding critical areas. So the consultant consolidated that information and shorelines into one group. So we'll see those topics more or less. We bring the land use element forward. And then 7.5.1 natural resource industries. Goals and policies. These were taken from the original chapter 2, which had our plus those objectives and procedures, which were really policies from each element. So the natural resource industry policies would fit under this real natural environment element. Just to be clear, because I know in some cases, natural resource land, local areas, for some people, it can be a little confusing. So natural resource lands are going to be, they're defined in RCW 3670A 170, and they're agricultural lands that are not already characterized by urban growth and that have long-term significance for commercial production of food or other agricultural products. Forest lands that are not already characterized by urban growth and that have long-term significance for the commercial production of timber, and mineral resource lands that are not already characterized by urban growth and that have long-term significance for extraction of minerals. So, so when we're talking about natural resources and this particular chapter, that's what that would include by the RCW. So opportunities. Like I said, the consultant and I believe that the chapter as is meets mandate, but there's always opportunities in that policies and goal section to revise and go further. So I will turn it over to the chair.
Thank you. PAC members, any questions for staff?
No, not yet.
Brad, do you have any questions for staff?
No, I don't.
Okay. I just have one, the vision statement. Do we need to restate it in this element? As we stated earlier on in the plan, is this something we'll,
It's in there.
I know it's in there. My question is, is
Oh.
required to be there?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I'm thinking, to your point, how many times do we duplicate, and do we have to duplicate it? And if we stick it in one
Yeah,
element,
I get it.
do we then,
Can you reference it?
bring it down to every element?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so is it required?
I mean, it's not. It doesn't say in the guidelines that it's required to be in there. I guess you just want to review it in the context of what else is in that paragraph.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's no other questions for staff, we'll move on to public comment for the rural and natural environment. Do we have it? There's a quick one, right? We'll start right on the side there.
Linda Links, I live on Lynch Road. I feel like a broken record because I pretty much say the same thing. I'm gonna read this 7.4. Mason County is the largest producer of shellfish in Washington State, and Washington State is the top shellfish producing state in the nation. And I think that doesn't include the tribal lands. So we're even bigger shellfish producers than this. It's the second largest employer in Mason County. What's the first largest employer? Is that the government?
Probably the
Probably.
Squatches.
Prisons.
So I'm concerned about saltwater shorelines because of the increasing residential growth where I live. I live on Lynch Road. All the lots along Lynch Road are zone urban, 60-foot lots. They're not all developed, thank goodness, because if they were, we wouldn't have shellfish growing, they'd be polluted, like budding is. So the goal of the growth management plan is to reduce, one of the goals is reduce urban sprawl. Planners have to do whatever you can to reduce urban sprawl if you value the economic benefits of our shellfish industry in Mason County. We do want that economic benefit. Marissa said you can keep this the way it is, or you can do more. I realize zoning is so complicated, but so there's one more little thing I want to read here. Mason County has 25 public access beaches, which for shellfish harvesting. That kind of goes to the park issue we were just talking about. These are public beaches for shellfish harvesting. So we have to maintain those. On 7.5.1, it says natural resource industries. And number 4 says establishment of a watershed shellfish protection district. Well, we did that a long time ago. We established out in Little Skookum, we established Little Skookum Watershed District. And then the whole county combined all the different watershed districts into one big one. So it should read maintain watershed shellfish protection districts, not establish. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Ms. Lynch. Yes, Ms. Rose.
Kirsty Rose, I'm over by the Limerick. I believe there needs to be further expansion on forest land not pertaining to commercial use or open space public use. While this element isn't focused on zoning, housing affordability, or climate resiliency, I do see a connection to each of those, and that it would greatly benefit many people within the community and county, myself and my neighbors included, if the comprehensive plan included recognition of private forest land owners and recommended changes to designation requirements with the hopes of encouraging forest land conservation and restoration. Under the current RCWs, landowners are designated forest land has a required minimum of 5 acres, which means that landowners like myself who bought 5 acres of designated forest land that was formerly used for commercial purposes with the intent of building a home are being required to change that land designation entirely to rural residential 5. Which means that we are now paying significantly higher taxes on that 5 acres, even if we only plan on building on 1 acre. Smaller acreage requirements would allow owners to have a reduced tax rate in return for not developing those properties outside of their residential means. And currently the only alternative is designating as open space, but open space benefits no one at that small of an amount for public use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Well, Mr. Ramirez, I think I got that right.
So yeah, I'm Alan Ramirez, again, live in the Shelton metropolitan area, you call it. So I just wanted to say that I know a lot of the people here, at least from what I've seen, a lot of the people here really like the nature that we have. And to further the point of Linda? Yeah, to further the point of Linda, I do remember watching a video about Taylor shellfish specifically. Now they talk about how pollution has really affected them, and they're having to come up with new technologies just to even be able to adapt to be able to produce all the shellfish. When really, I think that the county should be trying to help them as much as possible, because as Linda was saying, we are one of the biggest producers of shellfish in the country, not just within our own state. Within our own state, I'm pretty sure the #1 producer of shellfish in the whole state. So yeah, and it's not just the water that affects the shellfish, it's really everything. The air quality, because air is dissolved into the water. The forest, which does affect the air quality a lot. I think as we can probably see from the California fires, if the forest isn't doing very well, neither will the water nor the air. And then that just kind of feeds into a self-sustaining loop of, I guess you could call it a death spiral, which is really unfortunate because I don't know about you, but I really like eating oysters. Yeah, I think it would be nice if the county tried to go beyond what is required and to try to really hammer home that we are a shellfish producing county. And it's something that's really important for a lot of people, not just for jobs, because it feels nice to be able to brag about something, make a whole lot of oysters.
Ms. Gail. Mr. Ramirez.
RCW 19-405-02035 defines rural character as referring to the patterns of land use and development established by a county in the rural element of its comprehensive plan. And then there's a whole list here. A, in which open space, the natural landscape, and vegetation predominate over the built environment. B, that foster traditional rural lifestyles, rural-based economies, and opportunities to both live and work in rural areas. C, that provide visual landscapes that are traditionally found in rural areas and communities. D, that are compatible with the use of land by wildlife and for fish and wildlife habitat. E, that reduce the inappropriate conversion of undeveloped land into sprawling low-density development. F, that generally do not require the extension of urban governmental services. And G, that are consistent with the protection of natural surface water flows and groundwater and surface water recharge and discharge areas. And kind of an extension of Kirsty's comment, I'd love to see the county have a zoning that is really protecting, that is not about logging, which is what designated forest land is in many cases, but is really about supporting the natural landscape, vegetation, the use of land by wildlife and for fish and wildlife habitat, and to support small landowners in the community to have a zoning possibility and designation that offers the same benefits as someone who's clearing the whole land gets. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gail. You guys can fight over it.
No fighting.
Thank you.
Jacob Ackley here. I was thinking of like toxic and stuff. First off, I know that there's a lot of cases where, because we're a very rural county, a lot of people do have septic in their homes. And I know that a lot of times septic can leak, polluting the land that the house is on. I also remember this map that I looked at where it showed there was a lot of toxic sites and I think a lot of areas with high lead exposure in this county. And I wonder what the county is gonna do about that.
Thank you. Well,
Peggy Morrell, Union, Washington. I wanted to expand a little bit on Julianne's comment about the RCW definition of rural character. And I'm going to suggest some addition of language to section 7.2, which is rural land uses. And to the point that this section has been changed to rural/natural environment element. Even though there's a section 7.3 that is open space and makes brief reference to wildlife habitat, I want to bring it up to the front under the rural character definition, to the definition that Julianne read, the one piece that is relevant to the language I want to add. Rural character refers to the patterns of land use and development established by a county in the rural elements of its comprehensive plan. One aspect that are compatible with the use of land by wildlife and for fish and wildlife habitat. As a member of the climate planning advisory team, we are looking at assets that are going to be impacted not just by climate changes, but also non-climate impacts. And one of those is going to be the stressors on assets as aquaculture, shellfish, salmon fishing, forests, waterways, water sources that are expected with the growth and development that will come in the next decade. So I'd like to just verbatim, unless there's other suggestions, add possibly looking at 7.2 rural character, the very end, the last paragraph starts with about 434,000 acres in Mason County fall under one of the rural land zoning designations. These are mostly either built or built designations. These lands are outside of the urban growth areas and the natural forest lands. I'm suggesting the possible addition and are compatible with the use of land by wildlife for fish and wildlife habitat. The outcome of this is it pulls up that aspect to the front where we're defining what rural character is, particularly in Mason County. And I think that's a huge piece of it.
thank you. Any other comments in the room?
There you go.
Right.
Thank
Well, you got a hand up.
Okay, yeah,
I'm just saying.
Do you want to go ahead?
Go ahead. So,
Okay.
we'll get the card.
Okay, thank you. I'm Sherry Dysart and I live near Lake Isabel. And I have like 4 comments. They're kind of more like housekeeping, but help, it'll maybe help others. I've been reading through the document that was prepared for us. And I came to a section where they talked about different rural residential designations, and then came to a acronym LAMIRD, and I'm like, what the heck is that? So maybe the first time that acronym comes up in a document, if you could spell out what that means, because I had to look it up. I didn't know what it meant. So limited areas of more intense rural development. Okay, so I got that and I was able to go on and read the rest of the document. And then I had a really puzzling thing around page 17. There's a table 7-1, zoning districts, and the heading says, shows the acres of unincorporated Mason County, not including urban growth areas, the Olympic National Forest, Olympic National Park, and the Skokomis Indian Reservation for water. And I was like, is the Squaxin Island acreage part of that table, or they just got overlooked in the heading. So I'm just confused by that. And then on page 23, it talks about a paragraph beginning with Mason County has an abundance of forested land with long-term commercial significance. And then a couple of sentences below it says, impacts associated with forestry operations include erosion, sedimentation, and there's several other listed. They did not include something really important, which exposure to both herbicides and pesticides. Those are important things for people to know. If you're living next to any commercial timberland, that is a regular part of the operation. And lastly, on page 26, it talks about critical areas, and the resource ordinance includes regulations that protect the identified critical areas in their natural functions, along with air and water quality, sustain the county's quality of life. And that statement is missing a very important word. The statement should include water quantity, not just quality. So as more and more people are moving to this area, we are going to have water quantity issues as well as quality issues. So I would like that added to that paragraph. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Presley? Nope, you,
I think.
oh, I see her.
Karen is gonna speak to what I.
Oh, okay,
So
so,
I want her to have the
oh,
first.
okay. We'll jump to Zoom room. Karen, you there?
Hi, yes, sir. Thank you. Karin with the EDC of Mason County. I just wanted to say that the EDC is supportive of Mason County's strong resource-based economy and appreciates the many contributions these businesses continue to make to our community. We're currently engaged in an industry cluster study to help identify areas of potential growth in our community, and our results show a strong ag and timber economy in our community. And this is in large part because we have strong policies in place to protect both our environment and industry. They are not incompatible here. The county should continue to support these industries through extending clean water district funding, which is critical to shellfish production, work directly with landowners who are classified as AG land to better protect their resources and develop markets for their goods, and encouraging sustainable forest practices that allow for harvest to support public services. The county should also work with industries located within the rural activity centers to develop strategies for utilities and other resources to help support their activity and protect the surrounding community. Our preference is to have more intense development occur within the UGAs. However, we know a thriving economy includes opportunities for people outside of urban centers. Having a coordinated strategy to address needs in the RACs with partner agencies is critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything to add?
Yes, absolutely. This is actually why I'm here. So I'm Terry, and I live on Pickering Passage. So looking at the beautiful Squaxin Island. So I really want to hit home what Karen just said and what Linda started out with. So guess who is the 64th county out of 3,077 in the US? And what do you think? It's us. What do you think that product is? That we might say?
Oysters.
Christmas trees. Guess what oysters, clams, and geoduck are? Number 5 in the entire United States. 3,077 counties. Aquaculture. We're number 5, US wide. We need to make sure that that's represented here. So not only are we number 1 in the state, we're huge. We're absolutely huge. And just so you know, these are numbers that Karen's team and others have put together. If you look at Pacific County, they're number 17 in the US. If you look at Thurston County, they're number 8 because a lot of our companies, they land their product in Thurston County. Great. We're talking about landings in Mason County, number 5 in the nation, huge. So these things that Linda and Karen have talked about are really, really important. Tribal aquaculture are not included in USDA numbers. We have huge tribal aquaculture in the state. And Squaxin and Skokomish. it's not even a blip on the radar. So those numbers that you see, jack them way up. If a tribe produces 1 million manila clams a year, it's not at $5.99 a pound. That's a lot. So it's something to consider and think about. The other thing here that we talk a little bit about is economic trade. Some of the products that we grow here in Mason County do go to other places. Washington State is one of 2 states in the entire nation that's allowed to sell their shellfish products into the European Union. And that's because of our clean water and the way we do things and the way that we manage our biotoxins. 2 states, Massachusetts and Washington. You want to imagine that the other 48 states aren't really, really jealous? They are. And we need to keep that up. And Mason County, with what you've described here, is going to help with that. One of the elements that I'd love for you to consider is on the previous page at the bottom, where it talks about agricultural land. It says continued
What
growth.
number is this under? This
7.4.2.
4.2, thank you.
Excuse me.
Great.
It says continued growth in Mason County is likely to increase land use conflicts between urban uses and remaining agricultural uses. I would like to see some statement like that over in the aquaculture section too, because we have that squeeze not only on agricultural lands, aquaculture lands are also agriculture. So making sure that we reference that would be really helpful. The other thing is we do have a current clean water district. The funding will run out at some point. And so perhaps indicating that it needs to be maintained would be a positive step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments in the room? Any other comments in Zoom? We'll close public comment. All right. Discussion and recommendations. I'm not sure where to start. There's a lot, there's a lot to consider. Is that fair?
There. Yes, sir. Question, this is more for staff. On the acreage calculations, how did you arrive at that currently? Or do we know?
I think that's the same, that is the same from the original.
Okay, so when I looked at the 2016 comp plan, there was significantly more acreage in R5, R10, 20 long-term commercial forest and in holding than we're currently showing in this update.
Okay.
And what I mean, when I say considerably, like for R5, the previous plan had like 107,000 some odd acres, and this one only has 92.
Mhm.
And this, that's like, if you break it out, that's like 15,000 lots.
Mhm.
I mean, excuse me, 3,000 lots at 5 acres each, so. So anyway, there's a discrepancy and it's considerable long-term for forest. There's almost, almost an 88,000 acre difference. In holding, it was 13,000 before, now it's 9. I couldn't, I understand rezoning changes stuff, but I couldn't find anything that showed how something made up something else. In other words, if it went to some other category. So a lot of totals weren't adding up to what they used to be. I'm not saying what they used to be is accurate, but I'm not.
If I may,
Yeah.
you're asking for verification that table 7.1 has the correct numbers, and particularly to understand the deltas from 2016 to today.
Right.
Verify numbers. And what's next?
I'll let others go for a second to organize how I do this.
Okay. Other comments around the room? Other thoughts?
I would, I would be interested in just asking the staff a question that has to do with, like a zoning application. Because there's there looks to me like there's a lot of language in there to protect these natural resource lands for things like aquaculture. Is there a history of people applying for a zoning, consideration that might jeopardize some of these lands that have been denied in the past?
Well, you know, I don't have the whole history, but rezones are weighed against certain criteria, and it is to make sure that the request is in compliance with the comp plan, so the policy and goals of the comp plan. So if you have policies and goals in there to protect aquaculture or natural resources or critical areas, that has to be taken into consideration when we're reviewing a rezone. We also have to think of the cumulative impact of rezones of the same nature being requested as well. So they have a whole set of criteria they have to answer, and that we have to evaluate from that. We have to bring to the Planning Advisory Commission to evaluate as well.
So to kind of tie in with that, is there a map that's available that shows these critical areas for like things like aquaculture? That they are critical, and things like that would be helpful for developers or people that may want to rezone their land.
Keep that zone.
Yeah, if there was a map that showed these critical areas, then people would know, no, we're not touching that area, you're not gonna rezone that.
Well, the county has specific layers on their GIS mapping, but there's other organizations that delineate where those, I'm sure someone else here with more knowledge of, that kind of topic would know, but we have specific categories of layers on the GIS. But there's different organizations that probably have better mapping for that, for aquaculture.
It's something that can be added, some language that can be added in some of this, where there could be some kind of map like that could be incorporated into some of these areas that would show the public and everybody else involved that there is areas here that we're gonna protect, and here's what they look like. And maybe they're color coded, in red and orange and green,
Is this part of the bigger question though?
Well, it's
Because, and sitting back and saying, okay, so if I go, I've looked at some land out by, like Cushman or whatever, I wanna go buy my 5 acres and it's, zoned whatever, RR5, well, that would tell me that I could build a house on that. Well, a lot next to it sort of similar, and one next to it sort of similar, so what if, a dozen homes started to pop up out there? At what point does that start to impact everything we've discussed in here? How wildlife moves around and mates and does all their good things out there. At some point, where's that overarching? We talked about the lots along the shoreline that are, zoned for a home, but if you go talk to I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with Taylor Shellfish, and Bill Taylor explained to me what the density of sewage and water, and how very little can impact our oysters, and particularly the quality of them. Okay, and it was really amazing. You start to say, in essence, what I think I'm hearing is that some of these zones need to be rezoned no build.
Right.
And, basically this is to be like a protected area, and so where I'm thinking this is going to be delicate, which Mr. Tarswell is in here right now, is are we going down a path as we start to look at all these pieces to say some areas currently zoned RR5 for home really should be a no build zone?
Yeah.
Is that what, and then how in the world do we as a PAC deal with that? Because I
think you almost have to view it as a wetland type of situation, you have wetlands here that you're not touching.
Well,
so if people own those lands already with an expectation of how to use them, and there's a lot of issues in there, and I'm sure we probably need a lawyer at some point. Luckily, we only advise.
Right, because incremental, like you said, over time, will, 20 years from now, those lands will be destroyed because of incremental.
Yeah, well, no, and that's, Bob, you made noise, so.
That was a bird.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. Anyways, This, I think, discussions well beyond what we at PAC can advise the county commissioners on. Really, they need to have the ball in their court to talk to the real subject matter experts.
Yeah, there's,
I just don't see what we can do as a commission.
well,
That's all.
and I see this as much longer than a few month discussion. You know, not that, you know, and, you know, I've heard from many citizens that the need for action is yesterday, okay? And therefore the idea of delaying the discussion, but
You might as well get the lawyers right now.
yeah, it's,
So we do have a resource ordinance and a shoreline master program that has protection for critical areas in shoreline. So once, for example, we'll have to eventually, along this process, we're going to have to update the resource ordinance or critical areas ordinance. And there's a lot of updates with best available science regarding our buffers and riparian management zones. So there is going to be a discussion about bigger buffers, you know, for around streams and stuff, and creating better habitat for wildlife and the fish in these corridors. So that discussion will come up, but so it's not out of the purview of our scope of review.
It seems like it's gonna be difficult to round this out because
I, yeah,
Well, I kind of agree with what Bob's saying, but because the language is there, you know, it speaks the right language. But it doesn't
do anything.
Right.
Yeah, it's
But
like,
what-
okay,
yeah.
it speaks well, but, okay, so it goes in a plant, sits on a shelf and collects dust, yeah, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't achieve the real objective behind it.
But who's gonna do what?
I,
That'll come down to when the zoning application is presented to the staff and what happens at that point.
yeah, my opinion, there needs to be a bigger look. It's not about me putting my application in on my lot. It's about us as a community, and I believe that is a very broad and open statement, sitting back and saying, we're gonna take larger potentially elements of land. And again, I just don't know. This is beyond my
It's
experience.
just gonna connect directly with the conversation we had earlier about the meeting that's coming up that you were gonna have, I think it involved the climate change aspect, you know, and shore.
No, well, on 3 March.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's gonna affect
that's
this
just,
directly,
yeah,
you know,
right. Well, I mean, that means all these pieces come together.
right. They'll all converge at some point.
Yeah.
That seems like, you know, there's different categories of land. Well, there's descriptions of what they're allowed to have or protected from. It sounds like you guys are saying, maybe some of them are contradictory. Like, if you allow or protect certain areas in a particular parcel, does that then affect another parcel where you can't have both? Well, if I'm not articulating it very well, but sounds like I'm agreeing with what you
You're
guys
getting every
were
point
saying.
across.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess part of the question is if we have, you know, 1,000 5-acre lots and we check reported them with houses in every other lot, does that achieve the goal, or do we really need to put all the lots on one half and leave the other half untouched to be able to better support, you know, the natural environment and or wildlife and, you know, and then in this now, you know,
well, we have,
technically rural because it's 1 per 5 acres, but it's somewhat dense because there's a whole bunch of them. You know, do we take a different approach? And
I think you made a good point. Yeah, you buy land based on an expectation, based on the rules at the time. Is a bait and switch, is that really proper or ethical? I don't know.
That's where the lawyers come in.
that, yeah. All right.
the other issue, the reason I bring up these numbers is, you know, and you know, in the past, I've talked about, I've had a little problem with the natural resource when it comes to minerals. That it, you know, as bad as cutting down trees and, you know, IP or peer, it does grow back.
Yeah, rocks don't.
Right, do not, and if, you know, and see, when I read it, when I look at the resource code and what they're talking about enhancing. Well, as soon as I hear the word enhancing, how big are we gonna allow this? And then it gets into the zoning issue. We have apparently 18 or 20 gravel mines in Mason County. They're not all zoned the same. You would think that there would be at least zoned as resource, so that everybody would know what they are. There's a whole bunch of them in the RR5. And so how, and RR5 allows all this, and you know, I'm not against having people mine on their property, what have you, you know, going through the right process, but I'm concerned that it looks like to me you could just grow this thing and, you know, larger and larger and larger. It's a natural resource. Everybody's saying, you know, we want these, and yet nobody wants, you know, as an example, you take basically from Johnson's Creek to the bay, it's basically gravel. Nobody's gonna want this whole thing that, you know, from 220 feet elevation down to 100, you know, but technically it's there. Technically, if the value is high enough, people sell, buy, what have you, you can keep.
What if it changes that intersection?
So I'm struggling, even how do we improve the wording if we don't even have the right acreage and the right zoning correctly? And I know in a meeting in the past, when we were doing a rezone for the Overton property, it was mentioned that we were gonna, in the near future, review some of these zonings. You know, the zoning designations to get them more in sync with what's going on. It's, you know, first of all, checking this difference, one, but two, you know, do we really have RR5? In other words, there's a whole bunch of RR5 that's totally in conservation. So, and it affects population, allocation, land use, you know, all these kind of things. So I'm really torn where to go with this whole thing, so I'm trying to say, as you can tell.
Well, let's put this thing in the perspective. We gotta do something because this thing needs to go into something that's
Yes.
gotta get done by May.
Yes.
Are you timing yourselves?
No,
That's our hour.
that's our hour. I'm focused.
If I may, I'm going to move that we extend this 15 minutes. And get to some end point. If you think we need longer, that's fine. Yes. 8:50 now.
At the end of the 15 minutes, the end result's gonna be what?
We're not necessarily looking.
I think we need to give staff direction as to what we're gonna do or what we need them to go do. And I mean, one. We need someone to verify table 7.1 and then address, you know, if we have RR5 in a conservation area and it can't be built, how is it RR5? And how much of it is out there? And how do we, you know, where might we be in trying to address that, you know, these broad topics like that? It almost sounds, if I'm hearing you right, it sounds like things are miszoned. Or is it zoned within the flexibility we have, and are you recommending we have more zones? More zoning types?
Point of order here, we got mission creep going on here.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, I frankly see this could be a long-term dissertation right now. I mean, we have, this is very broad.
Yeah, but we still gotta get something done, Will.
I'm concerned we're not gonna meet the address. Right.
It ain't gonna be perfect, okay?
No, I agree with that. I'm not here for perfection. If that was, I wouldn't be here. No, I'm not, I'd go somewhere.
Yeah, you don't wanna, they don't say you don't wanna sacrifice the good for the perfect.
But this, so you understand where I'm coming from a little bit is, I have sat through these meetings, PAC types, from 2000, 2002, 2005, 2007, 2016, 2018, and today. And we're talking about the same freaking things we're talking about then. And we can't seem to get our numbers straight. All this time, and we don't understand our county.
Well, you're telling me we don't even have the right zoning.
Well, okay, take the gravel mine over there, here in the bay.
Yeah.
It's all zone RR5.
So I can build my house there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Marissa,
Don't mind the dust.
I don't. I mean, if someone knows what to do, I'm sort of turning, looking for advice. I don't know how to address this, and it sounds like it's pretty important.
I mean, it can put it out, man, I guess.
So. I guess so you're seeing an issue with the gravel mine being designated for R5, which would be down zone from mining.
Right.
And wanting to make sure that that RR5 is not included in our available zoning for resident.
Right, well, to take this off in a tangent. If they decide to subdivide that out, I mean, yeah, right now it's being used as a gravel mine, but it's zoned RR5. If they decide, okay, we're gonna stop and we're just gonna plat it out in a bunch of 5-acre tracts. To me, it looks like they could do that this time and you know. That's its own problem. And this is, you know, this has been going on for 30, 40 years.
And if it's just that one, how many more places
Well,
are in
but
the
it's
same area?
beyond that. I have RR5, but it's a conservation zone, but I can build a house in a conservation zone.
That doesn't mean you can build in conservation. I mean, people have property that they put in conservation easements. So part of it, they just can't build on, you know? If you have a critical area over a property,
How does that go into table 7.1 then? If it's listed as RR5, but it's a conservation zone, how do we identify what's a conservation zone on our table 7.1?
We were continuing on the mission group.
Okay,
Hypothetical, what is,
Yeah.
you know, it's still not gonna get us
okay.
to what we need to do.
I would like someone to address agriculture, forestry, fishing, aquaculture in this county with regards to work. Because when I go to the EDC, 4% of the labor of work in this county is aquaculture, agriculture, forestry, fishing. And when I go to what we looked at a month ago on the EDC, it's 4.5%, which is really different than the numbers we've discussed here tonight as the major employer. Because the major employer according to the EDC is retail trade, public admin, healthcare, education, accommodations, and there's a couple more. And what we had in the county section is the same way. So we need to, that is a huge disconnect.
Okay, so one thing goes through my mind is yank out all the references to economic out of this section.
No, but
You know what I'm trying to say? No,
we say,
no, I get it. I think I get it. Is I'm saying, knock out all the things they're talking about economic and make these things consistent between each other. Meaning if you're gonna talk economic, do it all the way through all the different categories. If you're not, then let's take it out. And my opinion is take it out and put that in the economic development portion.
I think that
All
was
right.
their point.
so, just, I guess, a question here for the group is, do we want to, we've completed our hour. Do we want to continue this? Do we want to table it from 9 and pick it up at a separate meeting? And with that, I guess we need to think about, and
Are we gonna have another special meeting in March?
I don't know, I mean, the real killer is the primary meeting in March is to review housing and the EV element again. We haven't even touched capital facilities or utilities or climate change, or there's another one out there that's missing too. I mean, we have 4 sections we haven't even touched, and it's gonna be April.
If I can make a quick comment.
Remember this thing?
Yeah, that's,
Not even there.
that's just part of the frustration.
I was just gonna say, affordable housing is, seems like this all would affect that as well, and that's a big issue we have, it's not the biggest issue. Just a comment.
Well, did you have to throw that one in?
Well, no, you got all
No,
the,
I'm kidding you.
Is this
It's legit, but.
This is their own first contact too with aliens.
but it sounds like you're saying there's some areas like the gravel pit and something Will said where
Yeah.
the characteristics, the 2 characteristics that are attached are inconsistent with each other. Does that sound right?
I'm having a hard, when I
Or
hear
they're overlap?
I don't have enough history and understanding. When I hear a conservation area, I have an idea that that's, if you will, protected lands for the right reasons. But when I go to table 7.1, I don't see any protected lands. I see rural commercial, I see residential, I see rural industrial. We do have long-term commercial, we have in-hand loadings, but we don't have conservation in here.
You know, we haven't heard from Brad lately.
Mr. Brad, thoughts?
Nope.
That's
Oh,
fine.
that's.
Don't have anything to say right now. I was muted.
Thank you, Brad.
But that's, I mean, okay, so if you're gonna have to improve something like, this section,
What do you recommend?
I recommend first of all, get all the economic references out of here. And just document it as, describing what the different zones are. To start, in other words, I think we have to do a couple passes here. I think one thing is call out all the economic references and just put down what it is you're trying to, the description of whatever it is. Get that all clear. I think that's one step, which I think is gonna take more than just tonight.
Yeah, and I think we also have to keep in mind that we all know that this is an umbrella document. It's an overarching document and, it's got all, for the most part, it's got the right language in it. It's just, we're gonna approve it and it's gonna be up to these guys to manage it down the road. And I would like to see, I would like to see a map though. I mean, if there's some language we could put in there with a map, and Marissa had mentioned a riparian discussion of, designating certain lands, and if there's a way to incorporate some type of map into something like this, as a reference.
The 2016 plan had a couple maps, and fairly high level, meaning, they didn't really zoom in. But you could generally see in the county, some
Just to
open
show
space.
some hot zones that,
Right,
that are in here that must be protected, not maybe or shall be, but must be.
I kind of like Jeff's idea. Because I don't see anything objectionable to the characteristics of each piece.
Right.
It's how do they interact with each other and hurt each other. But in terms of inappropriate zoning, is that us? Maybe that's,
Totally different.
Isn't that a commissioner issue? They have, if there's inconsistent or inadequate zoning, is that up to us to,
Gentlemen,
I don't know.
we are at 9:00.
Yeah.
Do we want to continue? Do
Not
we
me.
want to table
I think
this?
we're good tonight.
I'd like to ask, I mean, if I'm a,
Make a motion.
okay, I'll make a motion that we take section 7. Generically leave the text as it is, but yank all the economic portion out of it.
You all right for a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. So, any other motions or changes?
I think if we could let them work this out and come back and
I will,
I guess I got one more. At least the big picture, can we get the numbers closer?
so you move that table 7.1 and the numbers there be reviewed if they seem inconsistent with the 2016 numbers.
Correct.
And I will second Jeff's motion.
So Jeff's gonna move to what? Have the, review the difference between the previous and the current?
Have, I don't care which one's right.
Right, I'm just saying, you
My
have
correct.
2016.
My motion is get the numbers for these correct. If it's this, fine, but say it is, because they are significantly different. So whether that's staff or whether that's consultants, I don't know, but.
Well, we have to work through staff.
We let them work.
Yeah.
So that's your motion.
My motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anything else? So Marissa, those are the two requests, is to remove the economic elements out of this section. And to, review table 7.1 and verify its accuracy. Or put in correct numbers, whatever they are.
7.1 is as of now theoretically, right? In the
Yes,
table.
The table 7.1 is merely a reference number, so she knows what.
Right, but it's
We don't know.
it's as of now though.
Yes.
It's that. table.
Right, but you're saying it diverges,
It's quite.
you don't believe that the numbers could actually change from 2017 to now, the way you're seeing it?
He
Okay,
is,
okay,
he's
I get it.
believing, yeah, okay.
Anything's possible, but likely.
Hey,
Any other,
never hurts to scrutinize.
any other recommendations, motions on chapter 7 for tonight?
Yes, I would say, in addition to changing the numbers, checking the numbers on table 1, I'm puzzled by the rural, with the RACs, that there are only 3 rural access units, and there are only 9 hamlets, and that there are no tables, similar tables, in the isolated rural commercial areas, IRCAs, rural industrial areas, rural tourism areas. So could we flesh out some numbers for table 4 or 5 for the isolated rural commercial areas, isolated rural industrial areas, rural tourism and recreational areas, and perhaps add a table for cottage industries and master plan resorts and industrial areas to flesh out that section 7.2. We've got 3 tables, but there are 10 items. And I have to believe there's more. I have to believe there's more than 3 rural RACs besides Hoodsport, Union, and Taylortown.
So,
Maybe something over towards the Belfair and Allen, but
Brad, so Belfair and Allen are UGAs, they are not,
yeah,
so they are not RCAs. But the rural activity centers, we do have, there's the 3 in the county. And
but I would expect in the hamlets, I see Grapeview, which would certainly be in the Allen area, right?
No, but it's a hamlet.
It's a hamlet. Yeah.
And so what I'm saying there's, well, I understand that, but
Ever been to Hooyah?
So, yeah, the Brad, staff is confirming that there are 3 RCAs.
Okay, no problem then.
Are confirming that there are 9 hamlets as listed at the top of whatever page it is there. Bay Shore through Tahuya, and so those are good numbers. And
okay.
With regards to the isolated rural commercial areas, the isolated rural industrial areas, the rural tourism and recreational areas, and the cottage industries, staff has indicated in the room that would be very excessive to do.
Okay.
And then the last one, the master plan and resorts areas, we have none at this time.
Okay,
County, so that table it doesn't exist, there are currently none, and that's actually stated in the plan. So
I mean, Alderbrook, in my mind, would that be considered a planned resort or I guess an existing resort? That's why,
But, so what you can do, you go onto the GIS mapping and you click the layer that has zoning. There's ways you can populate all the specific zoning, like rural tourist campground, or rural tourist,
Right.
our rural commercial 2 or 3. You can populate that, it will highlight all those, list all those parcels. So there is a way to compile a list like that. But these are random parcels that are kind of all over the county that were typically uses that existed prior to when we had zoning. So they, someone had a commercial use out in the rural area. When we assigned zoning to these parcels, it was assigned a rural commercial, so they could continue and expand to a certain limit. But there are ways to visualize all that information on GIS mapping.
One other point, just this point, if staff or the consultant can update the totals on the racks, they're off. The totals off. It should be 1354. Not 274.
any other issues on this chapter for tonight?
No, that's
Okay. So let's close this discussion. With that, we have completed everything on the agenda. Are there any other closing comments from the PAC members?
I have one thing, since we're not gonna approve the bylaws till the meeting I'm done. According to current bylaws, you guys have to approve me being absent at that meeting, so I'm asking for you to approve it. Me being absent on the 17th.
I'll make a motion to accept Randy Lewis being absent from our March 17th meeting. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Gotta follow the bylaws.
Anything else? Do I hear?
Make a motion to close the damn meeting.
Hear a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Okay.
We are adjourned.